This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Friday, September 16th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, Sweden's Prime Minister resigns after election defeat. Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson has resigned following a close defeat for her party in last weekend's general election. A coalition of conservative political parties now controls 176 seats of the 349-seat Swedish parliament, which is 3 more than the center-left's 173 seats. The tide was turned in part by a surprisingly strong turnout for the Hungarian Democrats, which began as a white supremacist party, but which has recently gained steam as immigration policies have become increasingly contentious in the country. From the Associated Press, COVID end in sight, says World Health Organization, as deaths hit lowest point since March 2020. The head of the WHO has said that officially tallied COVID-linked deaths have hit their lowest point since March of 2020, suggesting that this is the perfect moment to work a little harder and bulwark ourselves against future deadly waves, rather than resting on our laurels and hoping that a worse variant never evolves and spreads. COVID-linked deaths fell by 22% in the past week alone, and there were 3.1 million new cases reported, but that's down by 28%. So while things are not great in the sense that these are still arguably senseless deaths and infections, the World Health Organization is suggesting that we're at a pretty good spot overall, and we should take the opportunity to double down on what's working and reintroduce recently dropped tracking and vaccination policies, as we might otherwise see yet another deadly surge in the near future. And from France 24, European Parliament says Hungary is no longer a full democracy. The European Parliament has voted 433 to 123 that Hungary should now be described as a, quote, hybrid regime of electoral autocracy, end quote, rather than a full democracy. This vote doesn't change anything on a practical level, but it does acknowledge Hungary's slide from about 2018 onward into something more akin to Russia's strongman-focused single-party rule, which does away with the free press and serious opposition parties, rather than a legitimate democratic system. This slide has been difficult for the EU as many of their most important decisions require unanimity amongst the 27 member states, and in recent votes, Hungary has often sided either against the EU in general or in favor of those who oppose them and wish to break up the union, like Russian President Putin. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.